Ocho sambo pagyu trashi pa tuche tempe trinle yarngo da pelge drolor zambe zebarache pande alame shabla solwa de Omo a guru vajra dara sumanisha sanekar Utta varda nishri badra varsa manya sarva siddhi hum Oma Guru Vajradhara Samatimu Nishas Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Oma Guru Vajradhara Samatimu Nishas Anekar Shri Bhadra Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Oma Guru Vajradhara Sumatimu Nishasane Kar Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Hum Oma Guru Vajradhara Sumatimu Nishasane Kar Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Dhagi Jetsun Lama Jeche Nyamda Dala Tuje Siksu Su Gebe Shesan Dala Tendo So Uyon Sunge Nawa Tsedo So Tseji Nyingne Solwa Debe Tse Visu Lune Yila Sambe Dede Malupa Gemel Hungi Drupra Chingi Lo Tsoni Sodan Dikdun Shapet Dingi Lekshune Lapchen Toni Yonsu Tsopadan Cheranye Dun Chanra Chingil Chancho Pargi Ninsen Tukuntu Niu Peme Siudru Lekshu Chancho Drube Gegen Kunshi Shi Tungen La Drubra Chingil Lami Samjur Ngemba Shiwadan Chedan Tumbe Dudum Malupa Beme Lungi Drubraj Dorna Tingne Tsera Tamcheda Techi Pardo Neka Tamchetu Ese Kyamne Lama Kelem Tukche Chingi Dala Siksu So Gongyab Drewe Nyamda Dachala Chetsun Lame Tukche Rabgong Kudan Sungi Nawa Dralme Tu Nyamsu Nyungwe Kesan Toprash Kewa Kuntu Yanda Lama Dan Rame Cheki Pela Sadhan lamge yente rabzone doje change kopa nyurtop shoya pakyuke kutagi lo pakyuke sungdan dagi ngam tukdan dagi ye tön yerme çıktı Chingi lo ma kyuke kudan da gilu ma kyuke sundan da gianga ma kyuke tukdan da yerme çıktı Chingi lo chedan tsogi chonam la chancho pardo dani kyabsochi dagi chinso gibe sonam ki drola pinchira sange drupar sho sange chedan tsogi chonam la chancho pardo dani dagi chinso gibe sonam ki drola pinchira sange par sho sange chedan tsogi chonam la chancho pardo dani kyapsuchi dagi chinso gibe sonam ki drola pinchira sange drupar sho. Buddha nel Dharma e nel Sangha, rifugio fino all'illuminazione. Con la pratica della generosità e delle altre perfezioni, possa io ottenere lo stato di Buddha per il beneficio di tutti gli esseri senzienti. Namo alhaye kedalu da nijinge rupada da mi kenam dan rawa kunge danam chitsampa tamche ketu dagi cheten. Buongiorno.
Good morning. One of the mainly available dynamics in our life is where we feel a bit down, we don't feel good physically or mentally, emotionally, and so on. We naturally tend to feel better to get out of that situation and go back to a higher state. And we're good when we feel good, when often we are afraid to fall back down. But since we remember, since we recall, we always live in a process that goes up and down, sometimes with a spiky wave, sometimes with a less spiky wave. Sometimes we're up, sometimes we feel down. So there are different types of dynamics in this situation. When we feel good, when we feel good, this is related to an inner feeling, described as that sensation when it arises, the definition is that when it comes, we can't wait for it to stop, and when it goes away, we hope it never comes back. And the definition of pleasure or happiness is completely the opposite. So one of the main factors that guides us, that pushes us forward in our life is our sensations, our feelings, which we're very attached to. The feeling of pleasure and suffering, they are related like two sides of a coin. On one side there is the action towards something pleasant, and on the other side of the coin there is the aversion towards suffering. And this is how we are. We can't avoid this.
principale è che
So,
dove noi andiamo a proiettare
where we project,
e dove andiamo a proiettare
the main point is where do we project to feel good and where do we project to get out of the state of suffering.
la frega.
The risk here is that certain dynamics in a very short term but don't work in a medium or longer term. These are the most accessible, the shortcuts.
Facciamo un esempio usando un contesto.
Let's take an example coming from a different setting. There are three types of
Tutti e tre fanno parte di questa sensazione,
pleasant feeling.
dice Dewa, ossia questa
Part
sensazione
of Dewa in Tibetan, this kind of feeling that we feel we would like it to last forever, and when it stops, we'd like it to come back.
in cui riusciamo a ottenere
So when we obtain something we wished for, something we wanted, we eat something delicious, we feel
otteniamo qualcosa di
a specific pleasure, we obtain something material, our image is recognized,
un riconoscimento, qualcuno ci parla bene di noi, piuttosto che
someone is talking
sensazione di
positively about us. Is there a good feeling? What do you think? Of course.
un altro tipo di
Another kind of pleasure
quando per esempio
is, for example, when we share something with other people, we offer it, we help someone out. This is also a kind of pleasure, a bit different. The third example is
quando andiamo a
the pleasure related to exchanging something with someone else, when we look at someone else in their eyes, when we manage to see the other person and exchange a positive feeling with the other person or being. So there are three types of different kinds of pleasure. The first one, related to taking, cannot sustain. Of course, it does in a short term, but at medium and long term, it cannot sustain itself. The stronger the pleasures in the short term, so-called connected to dopamine, the higher satisfaction we get. But if we get pleasure based on feelings which are inner states, virtuous ones, by virtuous we mean something that sustains the state of well-being and happiness. So feelings like love, gratitude, generosity, satisfaction, these are virtuous feelings which have this characteristic of being able to sustain a state of happiness and well-being. These are feelings that when present generate serotonin, oxytocin. Inner states generate a pleasant state which sustains over time, that continues and lasts. On the other side, when we feel bad, when we are unwell, are we patient about getting out of this, or do we want to get out of this as possible? Of course, immediately. To get out of this state, we have two types of options. One, where I want to get out of this state immediately. On the other one, where we need to put a bit of effort, and over time we manage to get out of this state of suffering. Of course, we usually opt for the first option. Sometimes we know deep inside that this is not the right choice, but we still opt for the first option. So we lie to ourselves, but we still opt for the shortcut. So we live in this vicious cycle I'm feeling unwell, I try to get out of it as soon as possible, but at the same time, I generate other negative states. So I live in these constant ups and downs. Using a more traditional term, we would say that when we feel down, we leave the suffering of suffering. When we go out of this, we experience the suffering of change. When we feel something pleasant, which cannot sustain our stain, these are temporary. And this is something we live often different ways. The point is, when I'm constantly taken away by ups, I should ask myself, can I get out of this? Some time ago, I created this analogy, which is the swing metaphor. That when we are high, we feel good, but we know that sooner or later we'll have to go down. When we are feeling down, sooner or later we'll get higher. But it's the nature of this game that we go up and down. And when we are high, we don't want to go down. When we're down, we do our best to go back up. So we push with our legs to go back high. So we try towards happiness, looking in a direction which doesn't sustain itself. So some time ago I heard a doctor talking about modern studies which reflect something which is always been in the teachings. So when we project our happiness into something which cannot sustain it, the system has a certain kind of reaction. Our body naturally tries to find a balance. There are many examples about this, where the body naturally tries to balance. When we push towards a pleasure, we experiment a high dopamine charge. The body recognizes the large amount of dopamine and tries to find balance in two ways. One, hides the dopamine receptors. This generates a constant seek of more stimulations. Two, it creates an opposite effect to counterbalance this feeling. So it generates an empty, so a negative feeling to counterbalance this extreme. So the higher the well-being, the pleasure, the deeper the fall will be. So in life we constantly go up and down. So the key isn't to be always high on the swing, but get out of the swing. When we're high, this is the suffering of change. When we're down, this is a suffering of suffering. But the swing itself is the all-encompassing suffering. So our body and our mind are polluted by and negative karma. In other words, oversimplifying, This is a unwell state, and a where suffering keeps of manifesting itself. Suffering is a symptom of an unbalanced state. So the main question, how do I get out of this swing? Stop playing in this sense. First of all, we need to realize that we are on the swing. The problem is that in this situation, and its nature is high and low. So if I spend a lot of time down, lower, when I go up, I feel wonderful. But then I'll go down again. So when you when you're there, it's not easy to recognize that the problem is not being up or down. The problem is on this dynamic, on this swing. So how do I get out of this? How do I exit the all-compassing suffering? How do I get out of the cycle of suffering, so-called samsara? To understand how to get out of this, we need to understand the dynamics of it, understanding that this kind of suffering is our body and our mind in an unhealthy state, in a sick state. They are polluted by non-virtuous actions, negative conditioning, physically and mentally. And here there's something which we could also define as the light at the end of the tunnel. Even if we are in an unhealthy state, like when someone is sick, which has been going on for a long time, and this person cannot understand where this sickness started, the main cause of it, but can understand the sickness, its dynamics, and tries to understand how to get out of this. If we tend to understand where it all started, we will not find a solution. First of all, there's light at the end of the tunnel, and everywhere where there's interaction, there's also transformation. We constantly find ourselves in a transformation process. We want it or not. Every action we do with our body, every word we say, every thought we have, they constantly change ourselves. We would like to have a snap change, immediate one. I recognize the dynamic. I snap my fingers and say stop to it. This is not possible because it's a habit. Changes can happen. It's not that changes can happen. Changes cannot not happen. Because everything is in constant movement. There's not a moment where we do not transform. Because there are no moments where we do not interact. So wherever there is interaction, inevitably there is also transformation. So how do I transform? It depends on the way I interact. Once someone told me that person is in a specific moment where own and mental poison are manifesting fiercely. See, at least the positive person is that the person will learn from this experience, negative experience, his experiences. And I said, not so much. What I mean is that when we have a negative experience, a moment of profound suffering or a challenge, we can learn from that and change and react in a different way. What do you think? But we can also continue to transform ourselves, but we just bring forth an old dynamic, which is so it is possible through our thoughts, words, actions to undertake a path where we nurture and cultivate gradually those factors which sustain. Here is used the expression what is virtuous and non-virtuous, gewa in Tibetan, translated virtues. The definition of gewa is everything which is made of actions, interactions, which once manifested their results will manifest in a state of well-being. Non-virtuous migewa are those actions, interactions, whose results manifest in a state of suffering. In other words, everything which sustains in a short, medium, and longer term state of happiness is virtuous. Otherwise, it is non-virtuous. Do I get the swing? First of all, understanding which are the dynamics, the behaviors, conducts which sustain a state of well-being. So the swing is a state where the body and mind are polluted by mental poisons and karma. So it's a state of sickness. How do I eliminate this? Going towards health. There are two passages in this. To get out of sickness, we need one, stop cultivating and repeating everything with gentleness. There's this famous verse of Lama text which says, sickness is to be known, its causes are to be abandoned. The state of health is to be reached, the process of healing is to be undertaken. So to heal, we need at the same time stop nurturing causes of sickness, and on the other side, we also need to nurture the state of well-being, of health. These two parts go along to. So how do we stop nurturing what generates sickness? Recognizing, generating awareness, and gradually trying to repeat certain dynamics, because it's easy to say, I shouldn't behave like that, and speak in that aggressive way, I shouldn't have those kinds of feelings, I should constant state of anxiety, jealousy, rigidity, stiffness. Saying it is easy, doing it is a bit less easy, more difficult. So if you remember, there are three difficulties which in the practice are very important. First one is generating awareness of our bad habits, physical, verbal, or mental ones. I realize I speak in an aggressive way and that is not benefiting myself nor the others. I don't want to use this kind of verbal behavior. So this level is when I recognize I'm speaking in an aggressive way. I cannot stop it, but I'm aware of that. And usually this first level generates a bit of frustration. I heard very often saying, Lama, it was better when I was not aware of that. I felt rightful. Now I still do it and I feel bad with myself about it because I keep doing it. And I'm frustrated because I'm unable to stop it after so many years. So I'm feeling frustrated. So it was better when I was not aware of this behavior. It's not exactly like that. First level is generating awareness. I cannot take a direction if I'm not aware of what is not good. So I recognize I'm speaking in an aggressive way. This is not benefiting anyone. So what do I do? I try to avoid it. So I'm first of all aware of that. Second step is I see the behavior. I see that I feel like talking in an aggressive way. For example, the aggressive starts in the mind. So when I start being more aware of that slowly, I get to a point where when I recognize something hurting. So when I got to that point is when I can start to do something about it. In the beginning, awareness comes up when something has already started. But slowly, I can anticipate this level of awareness when the negative actions really start. So I can anticipate my awareness a bit more, so I do not stop that kind of impulse to use an aggressive word. So I don't block it, but also I do not follow it. It's a kind of wind, a strong wind. So you just roots and do not let the tree fall down. So you feel like speaking in an aggressive way. You do not stop it, but also you do not follow. And here there are three levels. The first one, I do not follow it physically, verbally, and mentally. In this case, I do feel to speak in an aggressive way. I do not manifest this feeling to speak in an aggressive way. I do not speak in an aggressive way, and also I do not enter an inner dialogue, mental dialogue, where I speak aggressively. Because of course, when we speak aggressively, there are also other things together, anger and so on. So I do not enter this inner dialogue. I'm aware that I shouldn't be speaking in that way, but at the same time I cannot not say anything and so on. So block, and I do not nurture and follow. This is the second challenge, the second difficulty. The third level is to give continuity to the second one. So because we tend not to follow, but as soon as we relax, everything just exploded out there. So when we keep this status of neutral reaction towards that habit until it naturally stops. So when we manage to make sure this habit comes and goes away without being manifesting, when all this finishes, the habit loses energy. Sometimes, of course, we will fall back into the habit, but the more we manage not to block and not to follow, and be careful when you block something, you kind of not acknowledge it. So we do not block and do not follow it. Gradually, we finish it. So one of the main things we should do is to act out of compassion and affection towards ourselves. So welcoming ourselves and being able to see which doesn't work without putting shame, any fault on ourselves, but being careful not to nurture any negative behavior. So there is the image of a child who goes to his mother or father or ourselves, look, something wrong, I did something which was wrong. So what is the ideal behavior to help this child out? If I say to the child, yes, you are wrong, and I punish him, next time, do you think he will come back to me to say he did something wrong? So if we punish the acknowledgement of bad behavior, this will not work. If instead say, yeah, it doesn't matter, come here, I will give you a prize, then this child will have done a huge effort to acknowledge a negative behavior, then we will just dismiss this kind of process. But when we welcome the child and we support this process which already took place in the child with a helpful and caring attitude, but also being neutral towards it. I'm here to help in this process that you're undergoing. So you don't feel to be guilty. That's okay. Just do not follow this kind of behavior. Do not try not to repeat it. The same we need to do with ourselves. So first of all, we need to welcome ourselves, embrace ourselves, have affection towards ourselves, being able to recognize something that doesn't work, but at the same time not nurturing them. In this attitude, we see the negative habits, those that generate medium and longer term, and putting our effort into not nurturing, not anymore. On the other side, we need to walk towards light. Walking towards light means which are the other habits which benefit us. Walking towards a healthy state. It is difficult because if I ask you, describe a state of physical sickness, are you able to do that? Different kinds of physical sicknesses. This is not difficult. But if I ask you, describe the state of health, what does it mean to be in a healthy body? Is it easy or not?
uguale come lo stato di malattia o no?
Is it the same as a sickness state? Which is the easiest one to be described? What do you think?
Malattia. Noi non siamo abituati
We are not used to see the solution.
nella medicina cinese, qualcuno dice
In
ci riflettere.
Chinese medicine,
Corpo che sente
a healthy
in un modo
body
naturale e spontaneo fa
is a
4 azioni.
is a body that does 4 actions. Sleeps,
Quindi ha sonno nel momento di dormire e si sveglia
so goes
con energia.
when is tired and wakes up rested.
Appetito,
It's hungry and can eat at moments.
attrazione per i cibi che
Has
sono buoni,
attraction towards good food.
riesce a digerire bene,
3, digests well
viene bene e riesce a muoversi bene.
and can move around well without any fatigue.
Queste sono per esempio 4 caratteristiche.
These are the 4 characteristics of a healthy
Però
body.
noi non siamo abituati come
But we are not used in our mental state to imagine a state of health, which is essential.
perché è immaginando lo stato
Because by imagining it, I walk towards it. The Dharma path is based on that.
del Buddha,
When we speak about the Buddha or a Bodhisattva, these are a state of health
completo.
in a complete way.
Io riesco a immaginare
So if I manage to imagine myself in that healthy
e dico voglio raggiungere. Quindi
state, physically, mentally, and so on, so I will go on to nurture all the different aspects of it, cultivating
la pazienza,
generosity, morality, patience,
concentrazione, la saggezza,
joyful effort, wisdom,
coltivare l'amore, coltivare la gratitudine.
cultivating love, gratitude, compassion.
Questi sono le 6 perfezioni.
Not because these are the 6 perfections and I'm a
E quindi
practitioner of Vajrayana, otherwise I'm not a good Buddhist.
funziona in questo modo.
It doesn't work like that.
Sei il bravo buddista, devi fare il bravo.
If you're a good Buddhist, you have to practice 6 perfections.
Perché
It's because
se voglio scendere dal dondolo,
if I want to get out of this metaphoric swing, I need to reach a healthy mental and physical state. My
corpo e mente vanno sempre insieme.
mental and physical state
Dai cosiddetti veleni mentali
need to be free from
del karma.
pollution, which is mental defilements and the cycle of karma. So I need to know the antidote
Con le piccole azioni,
with daily small actions.
anche la parola che noi utilizziamo
Even the word
sadhana.
sadhana,
Noi pensiamo che la sadhana sia
which we think is a book that needs to be read. No,
il testo da leggere,
the
è una
text
mappa che ci
is a map
percorso
that
da
guides us through a path to be followed.
sadhana è un termine che viene
Sadhana
prima che ci fosse il buddismo, che
comes way before Buddhism, is the practice that we repeat, our daily practice. As Rinpoche said, my sadhana is peace day.
qual è la mia pratica quotidiana?
So my daily practice,
Ripetere tutti i giorni.
something that I repeat every day, constantly, so that I gradually familiarize.
E qua ci sono, per fortuna nostra, ci sono tanti
And here there are many methods which aid us in this path from the Tantra and Sutra point of view. But it is essential to understand that we need to train and repeat and enter this
noi siamo
constantly because we are always changing, forming ourselves. So if I act in a certain direction, I will gradually collect the results.
semplici pensiero
Even the thought,
in un certo modo,
the more I think in a certain direction, the more this
pensiero in un modo
thought comes up naturally. And the more my physical and verbal actions will follow that thought. And the more I interact in a certain direction, the more I transform in the same direction. In this path is described by Lama Tsongkhapa as loving ourselves, which means recognizing what is good, what benefits us, and putting our effort cultivate, and recognizing what is harming us and putting our effort to abandon it. So, another term would be loving ourselves or a healthy, selfish person. A healthy, selfish person means we are selfish. Do we give priority to me and mine? So if I do this, at least let's try to do things which benefit ourselves. Because there are also unhealthy, selfish people who eat junk food and the sooner or later will get sick. I do want health, but I behave in a way which generates sickness. But the healthy, selfish person does not want to at the same time recognize what is generating sickness, pain, and follows accordingly. So the first step is to be a selfish person, which means cultivating generosity, morality, patience, joyful effort, concentration, wisdom. The base is love, respect, gratitude, satisfaction, humbleness, having a physical, coherent, consistent behavior, avoiding stealing, lying, violent sexual conduct, taking substances which make us feel control and our mind, even if we feel we are under control. So, verbal, physical, and mental conducts, behaviors which harm us. If you think you do not agree with this, just go for the good ones. So, everything which we recognize as harmful, we should stop nurturing, stop repeating them. And on the other side, do whatever is benefiting ourselves. There's another example about diet. If you have a little bit of wisdom, you don't need a lot of it. If I see something that is harming me and I see something that will benefit me, if I have a little bit of wisdom, we have a Brazilian expression which means if the two neurons we have talk to each other, what do you think you will go for the good food or the food that will harm you? Do you think it's so difficult? Which of the two will we choose? The food which is good for our body. And very often the choice is not so obvious. Because we like certain kinds of food. Because we are used to have them. And we are in a unbalanced state. And when our system is unbalanced, is attracted by something which increases that state. It's something which is trying to balance itself towards balance. But when it's very unbalanced, it would just fall towards the lack of balance. So this, when a person is sick, is attracted by behaviors which increase illness. So very often when we go to the doctor says, do not eat that, we reply, this is exactly what I like. It's not because doctors are bad to take away. But the problem is that we are attracted by unhealthy food in an unbalanced state. Let's try with a certain level of self-determination and awareness, where in front of small things we can understand what is good and what is not good and can be let go of. So this is the first step of being a healthy, selfish person. The law of karma is understanding certain kind of is good and another one is not good, and cultivating what is good and abandoning what is not good. This is putting the law of karma into practice. Yeah? So this is the first important step to get out of this metaphoric swing, out of this cycle of suffering, feeling better, and so on. So we need to start from this. That then get to the second point Lama Tsongkhapa transmitted to us. The more I can abandon what is harming me, and the more I can cultivating what is benefiting me, I will get to a point where I will realize that to be a very, very selfish, a healthy, selfish person, I will have to be altruistic. So, actually understanding it is better to be altruistic. And this is opposed to selfishness. Altruism is a mature selfishness state. So, altruistic is the same obsession as selfishness, but with others. So I do not want to suffer, but I also want you not to suffer. I want to be happy, but I want the same for you, in the same way. And here we enter the bodhicitta state, cultivating love, generosity, compassion, acting in awareness of the other person, and compassion towards others. And then the third passage goes parallel with the other two, is to have a coherent, consistent vision of reality. Gradually perceive more and more that we are in an interdependent reality. We see our reality, ignorance, but we will not dive deep into this. But the conclusion is there's a lot to be done. And it is possible. That's the beauty of it. It's never too late, and it's too early. But we shouldn't be waiting the day where I will retire and I'll have all the time to be at the center and practice the Dharma properly and so on. This is not. We can do it starting from now. So if we follow excuses, we will never do it. Someone says, I would have the time, but I'm too old, it's too late. This is not true. If we manage to act every day, in a month we will accomplish. A month is a huge amount of time. If we manage to act within a day, 3 times a day, we will triple the results of a month. Generate awareness 4 to 5 times a day. It will be 5 times more that we can do in a month. So if we live with presence, awareness, giving priority to generating a virtuous conduct, we'll be able to do a lot. Because everywhere there is interaction, there's transformation. But you're not aware you're arrived at the peak of the mountain until you're there. When you walk, when you hike in the mountain, going up to the peak, you're not aware you have reached the peak until you're... Sometimes you feel you're getting to the peak, and then you realize there's another peak. When you get there, you're on the peak, then you have this 360 view. And the same is in path. You can't have a clear vision of where you're at. So don't be in a hurry to arrive, just be in a hurry to pick the right direction. And remember that every moment, every day is our great opportunity. Truth is, we are here. We don't know how much time we'll be here longer, here or in our body.
Ma più che altro, la vita passa.
Life goes on.
Non esiste la possibilità di, come posso dire,
and there's no way to lose an opportunity.
più che altro noi in ogni momento
In every, trying to find the right words,
lasciar passare la vita facendo niente.
it is impossible to let life pass by doing nothing, because I'm always transforming in a way or another. So how do I react in front of a situation? I can lose the opportunity to practice patience or any other awareness or altruism.
Io vado a nutrire, forzare magari la
In other cases, I nurture and enforce attachment, stiffness, closeness. So it's not a matter of taking the right opportunity, but is using daily opportunities to nurture certain parts of us. So our path is every moment, in every opportunity. Then of course it's also important to sit down, practice, meditate, visualize using mantras, holy art. But the same level of importance is given to the formal practice, sitting on the cushion, meditating, and to the practice in between meditations, when we speak, work, when we're enjoying ourselves, and we live life. And for the majority of us, this part becomes even more important than meditation itself, because this is where we spend most of the time. So how we do everything is essential. If I say I do my meditation every day, I recite mantras, I sit 2 hours a day, very thoughtfully, 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the evening, and so on. Why do I not see a profound change in myself? Because we need to focus also on what we do in the other 20 hours of the day. If for 4 hours I go in a certain direction and in the other 20 I follow the opposite direction, 4 steps forward, 20 steps backwards. Maybe 4 forward, 6 backwards, and the rest useless. So it is fundamental, essential how I live my daily life, nurturing this state of health. And we do have the tools to do it. And to conclude, the path is made of eliminating bad habits and mental defilements. It is not based on opposing something, focusing on how bad we are in certain habits and so on. This is not all. It is a part of it, small part. The path is made of walking towards life, falling in love with a better version of ourselves, recognizing our potential, cultivating a virtuous conduct, the main part of our path, with joy. So we will do our dedications.